This week on Another Brother.
I told Jacob this the other morning, and I realized I hadn't told anyone until I told Jacob. And then I told Lane at work.
Man, Lane found out before I did.
So not only did it drain to like a point where the phone's like, I need to shut down to protect data or anything.
Right.
It just
All
was
the way.
out of power. It didn't go through the shutdown procedure.
This phone has been on or near the ranch.
So
Been on the mesa.
We haven't talked about that yet, but that's a future
that'll be
episode.
for November.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll hit that stuff in
Yeah.
November. It started off really faint, but it kept getting louder and louder. And I started hearing what sounded at first as kind of like string instruments, kind of just like a bow on some strings. And then it kind of materialized into what was this like really eerie violin.
Brother over here, brother over there, brother everywhere. Another brother.
Our shop's called Spreadshop.
Spreadshirt.
Spreadshirt has Letterman's jackets. A Letterman's jacket that we can customize now.
Huh.
That one's going to be tempting. I don't know what the price is. Could be cool, though. Could be really cool.
I mean, it'd be a cool look. I just don't know when I would wear it.
Yeah.
In the winter. I mean, it's not a high school Letterman's jacket, so
Oh.
it won't feel...
But
We can't get
there's
like
no such thing as a non-high school Letterman jacket, except
Sure
for maybe a
there is.
college one.
It'll be another brother.
And you can sew patches on it. We can sew like Bigfoot patches
Create
and UFO patches and cow patches.
Actually, that works
our
rather
line
well,
of
doesn't it?
patches.
Okay. Well, we're rolling, so
Oh my
nice.
no.
I told Jacob this the other morning, and I realized I hadn't told anyone until I told Jacob. And then I told Lane at work.
Man, Lane found out before I did.
So I'm buying a new phone,
Okay.
even though I've only had this one for like a year and a half.
Oh. Okay.
I have a Google Pixel 7a, but I have issues with it. So this Wednesday, when I went to pick up the kids, pulled into the driveway, took my phone off the wireless charger. It was at like 76%.
Okay.
Pulled it off, and between walking from my car to the front door, it had drained to 0 and shut off. So not only did it drain to like a point where the phone's like, I need to shut down to protect data or anything.
Right.
It just
All
was
the way.
out of power. It didn't go through the shutdown procedure.
This phone has been on or near the ranch.
So
Been on the mesa.
We haven't talked about that yet, but that's a future
that'll be for
episode.
November.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll hit that stuff in
Yeah.
November. So yesterday, it was at like 36%, and it drained to 0. And we're talking so quickly. And this has been happening every week since we went to the ranch.
Oh.
And I hadn't even pieced that together until the real quick discharge on Wednesday when I got home. I was like, oh my gosh, wait. Because it's happened every week, usually in the middle of the week, Wednesday or Thursday. And it's always just boom. Like, you can, if you're aware, if you're on the device, you can see the percentage going just like 0. And when it hits 10,
So weird.
the little like battery saver notification will pop up. When it hits like 5 or 4, the extreme notification will pop up. It has time to get one notification up, and then it's just off. No shutdown procedure. Yeah, and it took me like this week to be like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This
Right.
is probably similar to what they're experiencing. It's not that it was not a controlled shutdown device. It was that battery is 76%, and now it's just drained. and I'd have to plug it in. And typically you can kind of like start it powering back up pretty quick, within like 10 seconds or something. I'd have to wait for like almost a minute before I could get it to even boot.
Huh.
As if like, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, wild. So anyway, bought a new phone. It comes in like a month or two.
Lucky.
It's like a little e-ink BlackBerry type phone with like a BlackBerry keyboard.
Oh, huh.
The e-ink that has full access to the Google App Store. I'm pretty excited about it.
So you can like watch YouTube in e-ink?
In e-ink, you could, yeah. Yeah, my idea is to try to like just continue to separate myself from
Stifle use of the
Yeah.
smartphone.
yeah. And
Wait, what's the name of it?
it's the minimal.
Yeah. I've
Yeah.
heard of, yeah.
I think it's version 2.
I didn't know that it had access to the Google Play Store, though. I thought it was just a few proprietary apps.
So that might be the light phone, which is like its tiny little brick phone.
Yeah.
Super cool, very minimalistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is called the minimalist or the minimal or something like that. Anyway, that blew my mind. And when I told Lane's like, hitchhiker effect. I was like, maybe. I didn't want it, but
Does anybody ever want the hitchhiker effect?
I think Lane Lane would not.
Okay, so how does this segue into what you wanted to talk about, Jacob?
Well, I didn't think through the segue fully.
Okay.
But there is a segue.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I know it.
I think Josh's new phone won't be so great at running this app that I want to talk to you guys about, tell you about, and then we can discuss it from there.
Okay.
So I've already confirmed neither of you have heard of the app Randonautica.
Correct.
Say that one more time.
Yeah, I don't know exactly where the emphasis is. Randonautica.
Okay.
Random,
Uh-huh.
Nautica. Nautica.
Nautical
Yeah.
stuff.
So, this app came out, I think, sometime in 2020. So it was during the pandemic. Kind of around the time when, people started really getting outside. They were tired of being cooped up inside. We had finally realized, we're more or less safe outside, even around people.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what spurred on this team to publish it at that point, but that's just kind of where we were time frame wise. So this app, you give it permissions to your location. It gives you a few seconds to think about your intentions for the actions you're going to undertake, and then you give it those intentions. Okay.
You give it those
I
intentions?
think
Type
you
it
type
in.
them in.
Okay.
I have not used this app. I will not be downloading or using this app. I'm not going to condone it, to be frank.
Okay.
So, literally, you could tell it literally anything. It could be adjective, verb, noun, whatever. And then,
Green frog.
sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
Okay.
it randomly generates coordinates for you. I'm sure you give it some kind of parameter of, 10-mile radius of your current location or something to that effect.
Okay.
But it randomly generates them. The team behind the app says they are quantumly randomly generated. Don't ask me. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll get a little bit into that.
I love
though.
this.
So it gives you these coordinates, and then basically you go to the coordinates. You find the location that it gave you.
All right.
Again, since I haven't been on the app, I don't know what the exact user experience is, but I think they've made it almost more of a social media type of experience where you can actually get, as you're going, you can document your trip there. While you're there, you can take pictures, take videos, and post them. And you and other randonauts, as they call them, you can see each other's posts. You can see where someone was. You could go visit because you'll see what their coordinates were for that location.
Okay.
But again, you gave it an intention.
Uh-huh.
So the idea is that intent will be manifested somehow in some manner.
In relation to that location.
Yes. So
This is
here's
definitely not for me.
here's from the team's website. The main goal of the Randonauts movement is to research reality outside of the framework created by methodological templates, as well as to search for novelty and reveal the potential of consciousness that creates our surrounding reality. By combining all available resources and tools of cognition, we can discover a world around us we never knew existed.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
no one. I just discovered this app this week on YouTube, watching spooky, scary videos because it's October.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually really timely fitting for me and Josh
Yeah.
because last Saturday, Josh and I were just talking about the potential overlap of consciousness and quantum physics.
I just recently read an article about new supposed discoveries into the quantum nature of consciousness.
And
Is
how
it about quantum field theory?
I don't remember anymore. It sounded like it was a terribly written article. They
So it
did
felt
not
like
understand the
pseudoscience.
science at all. So I was like, well, maybe because I tapped on it, Google will send me a better article on this story.
Yeah, I've only done like very little Googling since Josh and I talked about it, but it does look like there are actual legitimate, reputable scientists
Yeah,
looking
right.
into all this stuff.
Yeah, that was the one thing I got out of that article.
Okay.
So can I preface that with...
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think at the foundation of this is like what we've gleaned from the double slit experiment,
Okay.
which is... Right, so that's the one where you have two slits in
Mhm.
like a
Sheet of
whatever,
cardboard
physical
or
sheet.
something.
Yeah. And you shoot light source through it. And when you're observing it, the photons behave the way you'd expect, which is they'll all line up on the detector behind the slits in a line where the slits are. So like the middle frame that has the slits cut into it
Yeah,
blocks the photons
right.
that hit it, and then the light goes directly through the slits and lines up in straight lines on the detector plate.
did not think that was the result of that experiment.
That is when they're observing and recording. When the scientists are no longer observing the experiment, the photons act as a
Wave function.
wave function,
Interference pattern.
interference pattern.
It
Thank
fans
you.
out.
But
on the
we have
receiving side.
photographs of that interference pattern. So is that not an observation?
This is
Not
where
a human observation
that would be the measurement device. But
or a conscious observation.
Are you
Yeah.
100% sure that that's how it goes? When a human being is watching it, it's just 2 bars of light?
yes,
I really thought it was always the wave pattern scattering.
no.
That
No.
is weird.
So the double slit experiment demonstrates that particles like electrons exhibit both wave-like and particle-like properties. When not observed,
What's
they
your
create
current source that you're reading from?
ChatGPT.
Wait,
I'll take it.
I've
01 preview.
I've
It's
never
their
heard
large rational model.
never heard of an electron-based double slit experiment. I've only ever heard of this done with photons.
Right. So I think, yeah, I've only read it as photons as well. But you'll see, but it gets into quantumly entangled particles
Uh-huh.
are wrapped up into this whole thing. So it's a
Sure.
quantum thing,
Sure. Yeah, right.
which is not respective of photons.
yeah,
only.
you can either know the direction a particle is moving or its position, but not both at the same time.
The spin, so the spin state.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So it creates an interference pattern when not observed, a wave-like behavior, and when it is measured or observed, they act as particles, which lines up directly through the slots.
So,
Or slits.
Right. So when
Okay.
Josh said this, I was like, well, they skipped over that in science class.
yeah.
Observation
'cause-
versus not observed.
So, well, because I mean, we have photographs of the wave interference pattern. So as soon as a human being walks in the door, it just turns into the 2 bars of light.
I mean, I don't know.
Is that what they're saying? Because that doesn't make. There's no way that's what happens.
So maybe we don't have pictures of it then.
But I swear we do. I swear I've seen them. I don't think they were an artist's rendition. I'm very confused.
Well, they can't be an
Yeah,
artist rendition because
it's
we
okay.
wouldn't know that they
They're right.
behaved wave-like unless we could see it.
There might be some more verifying.
Very, very true.
Okay, I think here's the point. So it's like,
But yeah, go on.
so it's like oh gosh, science class has been so long ago. So it's like when we were discovering X-rays, and you had like a gold plate detector, and the X-ray would directly respond with the gold plated plate behind it. And so we weren't directly we weren't observing the X-ray interacting with the gold plate. We'd look at the gold plate after the fact, and we'd see the interaction with the X-ray. So maybe, I don't know. But anyway, I digress because I don't know, and it doesn't matter in this case.
Right.
Because there's plenty of theories that have been built over the decades and century since this was first theorized. Because then it comes into quantum superposition and collapse. Because now we know that quantum systems exist in multiple states simultaneously, called superposition. And observation causes the system to collapse into one definite state.
Yes.
Right? So that's what this experiment leads to.
Yeah. Is the cat dead or alive?
Schrodinger's
It's both until you open the door and find out.
Because of that superposition wave-like possibility. All possibilities of state exist all at the same time until it's observed.
Another slight Venn diagram overlap of shared interest amongst our group here. That was a weird way to say that. I've heard that the Eastern world, like China, is much better at thinking through quantum mechanics because their takes on philosophy are more open to ones, zeros, and the superposition of both, which is what a qubit is. Like, it doesn't have to be black or white. It can be both. That's what I've heard of, like, Taoism and Eastern philosophy is more open to that sort of thinking, and therefore their quantum mechanics and quantum scientists are just it's just easier for them. I don't know.
I might counter that they might appear more advanced in their quantum research because they probably stole a lot of the intellectual property from European and the U.S.
Fair enough.
And therefore could just springboard forward. But anyway, that's my opinion.
All right.
Okay, but really quick, get to what you told me about quantum physics and consciousness and what their new hypothesizing is.
Okay, so now there's this theory. I think it's older, but it's gaining more. It's a fringe theory, but it's gaining more ground.
All right.
And I think I read this on Ars Technica, maybe. But where a quantum field theory explains consciousness as a state. Well, I won't get there, but basically quantum field theory might explain how consciousness is an entity unto its own that does not directly interact with matter, but might be circumscribed or interacted through and with electromagnetic fields, which has a whole lot of implications, such as the existence of consciousness prior to physical bodies.
Yeah, this just sounds like most Western religion and possibly other religions.
Yeah.
The spirit, the soul.
Yeah, right. Exactly, the soul. It leads to some possible conceptualizations of how remote viewing is possible if your consciousness is not directly tied to your physical matter. And also, I've read recently, now people are concerned, and by people I mean like UFO, Twitter, that maybe nefarious aliens have technology that can extract the human soul / consciousness from the physical matter via technology.
Stealing souls. I love that. But all wrapped up in that, wasn't there something about, again, going back to the double slit test?
Oh, yeah.
Consciousness, now they think, may have an effect on reality, and reality isn't reality until it's observed, so consciousness can hypothetically influence reality.
The non-locality of reality, or non-universal reality. So reality only exists where it's observed. And I've tied this back to, I think this is where it emanates from initially. It's called the von Neumann-Wigner interpretation, which posits, based on all the stuff that we've just talked about, it posits that consciousness is the key to collapsing the quantum wave functions of multiple possibilities into a single definite outcome.
So they do not believe in multiple universes.
They do.
Oh, fudge.
Superpositioned all the time until a consciousness entity, an entity of consciousness, observes it. And then the state is determined of that reality that they're observing.
Okay, so now that we've set the scene, going back to Randonautica.
Yeah. Oh, right there. Random quantum algorithm.
That they only output once you give it your intent. So your consciousness, we're going to say your consciousness is now
Just dive in with us, Alex.
Just
dive
go
in here.
If that algorithm is not being computed by a quantum computer, I don't care. No, I'm just kidding. Go on.
The world being what it is, and with things like TikTok and X and YouTube, people, of course, pretty quickly used Randonautica for the spookies, right?
Meaning,
I will see a ghost or something.
The
or
intent they're giving it, listener warning, some of this is actually going to get dark.
Oh, gosh.
Seriously dark. Okay?
Oh, all right.
Probably endless examples out there.
Oh, no. Did someone find a dead body?
Probably endless examples out there.
Okay.
How many of them you can confirm, I don't know. But I think this list I have, I think these are verified. Okay, so one user entered in the intent, the single word, death.
Why?
What did she find? A recent shooting victim lying on the ground, nearly dead.
Oh my gosh.
First responders came and saved the man's life, but that is genuinely what she found when she went to those coordinates that this app provided her.
I mean, supposedly, right?
Again, I think this one's verified. I mean, the police, police, first responders, these people came. She's got video.
Okay, but not, I mean, that doesn't verify that she used the app the way she says she did.
Right. All of this, sure.
Right.
Take with a grain of salt. Let's just put that out there. Okay.
And I mean, she failed her intention because the dude was still alive. So she was supposed to wait, I think.
She was too quick. Okay, so for all these examples, I don't have what the intent was that they put in. But regardless, the point is this is October and these are scary things to find. That's the point here.
Sure.
This one random TikTok user, he goes by Chris Sees Ghost on TikTok.
Nice.
Okay.
Found a field full of coffins.
What?
Full of coffins.
Were they occupied? Because it's not very scary.
Not very scary.
Okay, true.
Dude,
Look,
come on.
who are they preparing this field for?
Yeah. Let's see. This one's not that spooky. But this person, they were taken to a detention center. Upon arriving, she received a text message from a anonymous random number
I really
that she did not have.
Ghost was about to come out. Text message from a ghost. What?
But the text message said, "Are you real?" And then right after that, she noticed some graffiti on a wall that just said, in large letters, "Real."
Ooh.
So again, just a weird coincidence to have happened there.
Or is it quantum incidents?
Entanglement.
Can I give one?
Yeah.
Give one?
Eric Bard, Skinwalker Ranch.
Uh-huh.
His monitor's getting messed with. He's getting all this interference, apparent interference patterns on their security cameras on the monitors. And he says, if you need to tell me something, just tell me. Yells it out into the sky. And then the screen dissolves into I alive.
I living.
I living. That's right. I living. Ooh.
It's a good one. Let's see. Oh, this is another fun one. I don't know if you guys know the YouTuber Nick Crowley.
That
Nope.
sounds familiar.
Not me.
This little article defines him as much of a skeptic as he is a believer, but he often goes through debunking ghosts and supernatural videos people put online. Any video of his that I've seen, it's him debunking stuff. So I thought of him personally as more of a skeptic. Anyway, he uses the app, and upon arriving at his coordinates, he wasn't able to make it directly to the coordinates because at the exact spot that he was supposed to go to, there was a swarm of police vehicles in a circle. Just
I gotta
weird.
do this now.
And we don't know the intent that he gave?
No, so yeah, I am bummed that almost none of this is giving us the intent that these users put in, because that's kind of the whole point.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
That's really why they're doing it.
You can't find any kind of correlation.
Yeah. You know, just other weird examples of people just finding random graffiti things saying stuff like, "This is the sign you're looking for." And I mean, so there are examples of people like putting in good or happy types of intents and thoughts, and those are also manifested. It's not just weird, creepy stuff.
No doubt.
Okay, but here's the worst one of all.
Oh. Okay.
And this
one more time. What kind of warning do we need to give for this?
Yeah, not for
Because
children.
I think that last one should have been maybe a little more specific.
This one's graphic, guys. Okay. So graphic. I don't know how much detail I want to give.
Earmuffs, children.
This one is absolutely verified. Happened in Seattle. 3 kids or teenagers together. Let's see, where were they taken? Taken to a rocky shoreline next to a pier in Seattle.
Because that's where the app told them to go? Is that what you mean by taking
Right,
okay.
right. Yeah, they went to the coordinates from the app. They noticed a really strong, bad smell. As they looked around some more, they found a suitcase down in the rocks. Inside the suitcase were black garbage bags.
Oh, no.
They were smart enough to not poke around and call the police. The police came, and inside the black garbage bags were
Victims.
Let's leave it at that. Yes. And they were identified, and they were 2 individuals who had gone missing.
Wow. Now, as a conspiracy, suppose the developers of this app. Nah, we don't need to go there. But the concept it's as old as time, right? Because like Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. I think it used to play. I think he had records of it, like a record disc.
Yeah.
I had it on my mission, and The Strangest Secret basically being like old school manifesting, like your brain.
Did you just mean The Secret?
The Secret.
Yeah.
What did I say?
The oldest secret.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. I was totally thinking The Secret.
Quantum.
Who are you entangling with?
Earl Nightingale.
No.
But yeah, right. So your mind is like the most fruitful field, and whatever you plant in it is going to grow. That concept.
Yeah.
Like whatever you ideate happens.
Send it into the universe.
Yeah. While Jake was looking at this, I looked up some historical cases of what we'd call self-fulfilled prophecies. So maybe conscious, determined collapses of superpositioned reality states.
Boom.
Okay. Sure.
Julius
The
Caesar.
forerunners of Randonautica.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you went really historical.
So like Plutarch, according to Plutarch and Suetonius, allegedly a soothsayer had warned Julius Caesar to beware the Ides of March.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the Ides of March, he's assassinated.
Right.
By the Roman Senate. Abraham Lincoln, apparently, President Lincoln had reportedly told his wife and his friends about a recurring dream he'd been having, where he wandered around the White House and encountered mourners and a corpse in the East Room. When he asked who died, a soldier in the dream says the president. He was killed by an assassin.
Ooh. And then later, that really happened to him. Not that he died, but that he was walking around. Ghost? He then was a ghost?
Oh. Talking about the movie Ghost? I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember Abe Lincoln making an appearance in Ghost.
I feel like I should cut that out now.
Gene Dixon's prediction of JFK's assassination. Mark Twain foresees his own death.
What?
So this one's interesting. In 1835, Mark Twain was born shortly after the appearance of Halley's Comet.
Okay.
And then he famously predicted that he would, quote, go out with it as well, stating that since he came in with a comet, he expected to die when it returned. He did die on April 21st, 1910, one day after Halley's comet reached its perihelion. Yeah, so, I mean, there's tons of instances of, I don't know.
Self-fulfilled prophecy.
Yeah, because my thought is like, wow, so people, what percentage of people who go get their palm read or their fortune told and then really get hung up on that, does that thing end up happening?
Now, I did find an article from a psychology website about Randonautica, and they went through some of the probably actual explanations. Self-fulfilling prophecy, it's not so much that you caused it to happen, but that your mind is providing the meaning to the physical reality. Priming
meaning like
psychological phenomena in which exposure to one stimulus influence a person's reaction to a subsequent stimulus. When you think scary, a bunch of things come to mind. When the randonaut arrives in a location suggested by the app, they will be more likely to first observe those elements connected to their initial intention. So you're going to seek out the things that you've been thinking of. Confirmation bias, cherry-picking fallacy. Anyway, there's a lot of things that would explain the majority of what users are experiencing. But that Seattle one, whoo, man.
Well,
dark.
Put enough monkeys in front of a typewriter for long enough.
No, for sure.
No, I don't think so.
So I think, aside from that Seattle finding, the scariest thing here is an app that is encouraging people to go visit completely random, unchecked, no safety barriers enabled coordinates. This could be private property. This could be abandoned factories with squatters. This could be cliffs on the mountains.
I'm sure they've had lawyers tell them, you're not culpable if people actually do it.
Yep.
I would hope, unless they're idiots.
Well, there has to be some end user agreement that you sign as soon as you pop open the app.
Right.
Probably, but sheesh. People don't know what they're getting into.
Well, not to mention, it then gets populated to the app so everyone can see what coordinate you went to, which means like that's in the vicinity of where this person is. And like, if you
that better be something that they wait a certain amount of time to post, because
in this social media age,
people are posting immediately.
That is a legitimate security.
Plus, other users have relayed other odd permission issues, such as screenshots being taken of their phone by the app. It having access to your passwords.
That's an option?
I don't know, man.
That's not a permission.
I don't know.
If your operating listeners, if your operating system has an option to share your passwords, you've got a bad OS.
Yeah, I don't know. Reddit's an interesting place. Let's say that. One Reddit user said it knew the password to his VPN.
You could almost say Reddit is a scary place.
There's some pretty good scary stuff on Reddit.
Wait, we're not supposed to end on a laugh in these episodes.
4chan.
To add a little more nerd to this Stew Nerds,
because there hasn't been enough.
This weird quantum random number generator thing that they're talking about reminded me of how far, I think it's Roll20, the virtual tabletop service. They did something to simulate a light beam and use that for their random number generator that is their dice roller. So they've got something somewhat similar sounding for their number generator. I can't remember everything they said about it, but it's physics-based and has something to do with a light beam.
Of the products to provide something like that.
I can't remember the details anymore. I don't have a brain for remembering those things anymore.
Wow. Moral of the story, don't trespass, kids.
Definitely do not trespass.
You'll find things you don't want to find. Kids.
Hey, kids. Do you know what time it is?
So last week we heard Jacob's experience leading up to our discovery. And this week it's my turn to retell that from my perspective and from my memory. So at the time, I think it was the fall of 2008, probably September or October even. And we had already been exploring in the canyon itself, just going on hikes and stuff. I think as Jacob had said earlier, it's a popular canyon, especially for local university students and families that live in the neighborhood. At the mouth of the canyon, it's pretty wide, like paved trail, pretty easy going. So a lot of families can get out there. A lot of older individuals and couples can get hiking up there pretty easy. Easy to access. So we had done some hikes already, and it's probably, in my opinion, the most beautiful hiking area if you're at BYU. That's within range. Our grandma actually lived pretty close to the mouth of that canyon, probably under a 5-minute drive from the mouth of the canyon to her home. And probably around this time, if I'm remembering my timeline right, we were at grandma's house and we had shared some of our hikings and hikes up there and things. And we started hearing some stories from grandma, from our aunt, from our mom, and from our uncles about some things that they had experienced back in like the 80s and 70s, I think, in Utah and around the canyon. And it was those things that I think got us a little interested, and our interest peaked a little bit in exploring the canyon more. And I remember, I think one of the stories was was one of these groups that was discovered in Rock Canyon, and some of these like rituals that they would do and had been found out. And so I think that's what that colored our next experience into the canyon, to see if we could discover anything that echoed back to what we had heard from family. And so the night that Jacob talked about that we had filmed, we had come prepared. We had like camelbacks and our flashlights and some film equipment, Alex's new camera. And we went out there ready to just, hopefully explore and sleuth out and find something that could corroborate the stories. So we decided to head into the canyon and see what we could find out. It was a night. Probably at that time, we were probably going out at like 9 or 10 p.m. Because, what else are you going to do when you're rooming together at school? And it was clearly a weekend, so we just went out at night, late in the night. Really dark. I remember some pretty good moon illumination. So I feel like it was pretty bright until with Rock Canyon, once you get maybe half a mile, quarter mile, or half a mile up the canyon, it starts getting overgrown with tree cover. And the path for a good bit of it has no direct line of sight to the sky. And at those points, it starts getting pretty dark. And I don't know if we had seen that bullet-ridden car before that night, but I remember as we're hiking up, looking down into the creek bed, which falls away maybe 15, 20 feet from the trail itself, and seeing this old, rusted body frame of a car down there. And just addled with bullet holes. And I remember that night specifically, it kind of took on a different cast because we were already prepared and looking for something based on our family stories. And I remember seeing that car and just thinking like, oh man, what's the history of that vehicle? How did that happen? How did it even get up this far in the canyon? The reason it's crashed in the creek, does it have to do with the bullet holes in the exposed steel? Or was that kids after the fact over the years just shooting down into it? And after we had seen that, as we're going, Alex with his flashlight and his camera, I remember, because I'm kind of a high alert kind of person already, and I'll get jokes made fun of for this, but at the time I think I was part of BYU's ROTC program already, and so I had kind of been learning the art of what we call 360-degree security. Lines of fire, avenues of approach, being aware of not just what's in front of you directly or around you, but also what's above you. And so I remember, I was like looking up in the trees and just down in the creek and looking around, because up to this point we had already seen like the reflections of eyeballs off on the side of the trail. And I remember my fear being like, are these cougar? Do we have mountain lion down this far from the mountains already? I just remember the reflections of eyes that night a lot. And as I'm like looking around and scanning, I realized that our whole group had stopped, and Alex's flashlight is just pointing straight down at the ground. And I'm like, what's going on? And I look over at it, and it's this rock in the middle of the trail that says, "You're closer." Is that it? You're getting closer?
You're closer.
You're without an apostrophe. Okay. So I look down and I see this rock, and it in white is written the words "You're closer." And I don't know about the rest of the group, but again, that night that took on a particular meaning. Like, wow, is this like a breadcrumb? Is this, we're closer? Okay, what are we closer to? But I remember like that heightened our observations and what we were looking for. Like, okay, we're closer to something. What is it? And as we keep going, I remember more what looked like lights reflecting in the distance. That's getting me amped up and wondering what these are, what animals these are around us. And then typically we got to this point in the trail where we normally head left over this prepared bridge that took us to what we called the Pooh's thinking log. And that might be what it called itself. There's like this big, thick log on the side of the trail. And I think it even had a plaque on it. And it's probably a bench made on behalf of a donor or in memorial of somebody. And so normally we'd cross that bridge over the dry creek and continue the trail in that direction past Pooh's thinking log. Pooh Bear da Pooh, not Poo Poo da Pooh. But this night, for whatever reason, and again, maybe it's because in the past we hadn't really seen anything out of the usual going the direction we typically go. But this night in particular, we decided instead of crossing that bridge, we're going to stay to the right and continue down into the dry creek bed itself. And as we did that, I mean, literally 30, 40, maybe 50 feet up that dry creek, we see this break in the canyon wall. And that's the draw that Jacob had talked about. And it's definitely not your typical draw. It's maybe 10 feet wide at most at the base there. And it was pretty steep angle. I would suspect at some points you have to crawl on your hands. So I'd say it was probably 30 degrees, anywhere from 30 to 50 degrees at different points. Just kind of like this big cleft in the canyon wall that just gradually keeps going up and up and up. And on the left side of that draw, you have just this sheer cliff face. And on the right-hand side, for the first maybe 100, 200 feet, you have cliff face, but then it starts getting wider. And near the point where it starts widening, we notice this big, gnarly tree coming up out of the dirt of the draw. And there's like a real narrow path, almost like a game trail, that goes up around the tree and up over a crest. And we just we get drawn into it for no particular reason. And as we went up over that crest and around that tree and popped up over, there's that slight clearing, maybe 20 feet by 30 feet, and that boulder overhang that Jacob talked about. And I remember looking over there because there's clear black smoke residue, soot on the underside of that boulder, which, obvious indicator of a campfire. And sure enough, as you look down at the base of it, you can see the remains of coals and fires and things that have been burnt. And I remember at that point seeing what I thought looked like maybe the last 2 or 3 inches of like a shoelace, and maybe some material that looked like it could have been like the upper of a shoe. And that kind of put me on edge. And there's some other things in that pile that I thought might have looked like some bone or something else, and just really, really caused me some alarm. And as we're there, and all we see is this campfire and soot on the underside of this overhanging boulder, we continue looking around, and before we did anything else, we started hearing just the weirdest noises and sounds. It was kind of like almost an intelligible voice. Like it was making sounds that could have been words, and it had like the stuttering pattern of a spoken voice, but none of it wasn't intelligible. I couldn't put my finger on any single word that was being said. And that was just echoing up through the canyon from somewhere. And the acoustics where we were just made it impossible to pinpoint where that was coming from. But it was the strangest echoing sound. And in the middle of hearing that, someone, I can't remember who it was, someone kind of hollers down. They had left the main group, and it was like, hey, there's a cave up here. And sure enough, if you just keep going up from the direction that we entered that space, if you keep going up the slight slope and turn a left corner around the cliff wall there's just this, we find this other cut, like sheer cut in the rock. And at the base of that large cut is maybe a 2 foot by 3.5 foot hole. And we decide as a group that we're going to go in. And, I'm already feeling pretty alarmed. The noises and the voice set me off. It was really strange. And then seeing what I thought was part of a shoe and then maybe some bone put me on edge. And then also just remembering the reflecting eyes and the message, "You're closer." I didn't know what I was closer to. So as everyone else decided that they wanted to go into the cave, I determined to stay outside of it and just make sure nothing snuck up on us or trapped us in this narrow mouth of a cave, not knowing anything about the cave itself. And so I just stayed out there, and I could hear Jacob and Alex's and our roommates' voices, like their comments, and it was pretty muffled because that cave went back pretty far. But I just remember these muffled comments, and the sound of kind of like rock underfoot and the rustling of trees in the wind, some debris moving underfoot, and them just kind of giving off sounds like, what, like remarks of, what is this? And like Alex's voice, like, oh man, I don't like this. And so I'm hearing all that as I'm like scanning outside and just trying to maintain knowledge of what's around us. And as I'm doing that, I start hearing sounds again from outside of the cave, and the weird garbled voice echoing. It started off really faint, but it kept getting louder and louder, and I started hearing what sounded at first as kind of like string instruments, kind of like just like a bow on some strings, and then it kind of materialized into what was this like really eerie violin music or sounds, and it was just the most illogical sound to be hearing at like 11 p.m. at night up in a canyon. And I yelled kind of backwards over my shoulder into the cave, like, can you hear that? Do you guys hear that? And they shouted back, no. Hear what? And at that point I realized like it just felt so off and so wrong, and I yelled at the group to get out. I was like, get out here now. And they did, and they scrambled out with me, but they were so loud. I was like, shh, quiet. Like, do you hear that? Listen. And it stopped. I don't, it just stopped. But at that point, I didn't go in the cave. And as they were describing it to me, I was just like, all right, I'm done. Like, we gotta go. And we had all kind of agreed. I think we hung around a little bit longer to get our thoughts clear, and we left. But the whole time, just so on edge and scanning everywhere and still hearing noises and seeing eyes reflecting. And it wasn't until we got down the trail far enough where it starts widening to the parking lot gate that I could finally feel like I could relax. And but down there, as we got closer, we're obviously talking about like, what the heck was that? What did we see? What did we hear? What is going on here? And we see the particle board, plywood, signboard towards the base of the canyon, which is designed to hold, for you to like staple bulletins or just information to this board, which didn't really have anything on it, but scratched and written into the wood was, and I don't know what, it's kind of weird because there's a lot of stuff scratched into it and written into it, and it's a pretty big board, but our eyes were just kind of drawn directly to this one spot on the board where it said River Hobo. And I don't know why, but that like really captured my attention. And for whatever reason, the conclusions being drawn that this, whatever this is, whatever this means, must certainly have something to do with all of that experience and what went on and what was seen in that cave and the noises being heard, and led me to think back to again, the stories we had heard from our aunt and our uncle and grandma, and just kind of driven at that point to figure out what's going on and what is the history and what it all means. After we got back to our apartment and kind of got a handle of what we had seen as a group and what we had experienced, we went full out with it. Jacob talked about it. We created this weird knockoff Ning.com, which let us build this social media community around our effort to document and research what had happened in the canyon. And a lot of it made sense to us. And I don't have time to go much into it now, but kind of understanding that the rise of the occult and witchcraft and Wiccan, a lot of people were upset by the social climate, by the Vietnam War, by race and gender issues. A lot of women were upset with their socioeconomic status in comparison to men, and how that, starting in the 60s, had really created a new interest in discovering these things again. And then, leading all the way up to the satanic panic that just kind of led us to understand through research some things that likely led to what we were experiencing. I think starting in the 60s, the rise of the occult in America, mostly with certain subpopulations, their issues with the social climate of the time, the Vietnam War, race and gender issues, particularly women seeking out, to renew witchcraft as a way to give them power, because they were tired of, oh gosh, I'm not sure I want to do that again.
Okay, we're rolling.
Which led us in our research to understand a little bit more about the rise of the occult in the United States beginning in the 1960s, due in large part to people's feelings of the social climate at the time, the Vietnam War, race and gender issues, and particularly by women who were seeking to regain their power through witchcraft and really get out of town.
I mean, once I'm able to get it to stop and play back, I don't know that it's going to be happening over those same words again. But
and then following to the 1980s and the satanic panic that gripped Utah, we felt that a lot of this led to our experience, and we sought to document that on our Ning.com site for friends and people who wanted to enjoy the ride with us. But it was a great, forget it. So we've tried to record this last part about 4 times now. We're getting really weird SD card writing errors, which we don't normally experience here. So rather than tempt fate and try to go for a 5th time, I'll just say this experience has stuck with us as brothers. It's been something that we've bonded over and continues to be.
Yes, that's perfect. Cut it. The episode cuts on that.
sure.
As his words.
Yeah, that works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dang it, that's what I was going to do.
Oh, shoot. Do it. You're going to do it better.
Thank you
For being our brother.
Wow, did
That
we
might be
just
too
nail that?
energetic, though.
Okay.
we'll take another run at it then.
Okay. For being our brother.
That the first one was too energetic.
Gotcha. Production of this podcast is done by Alex Stewart.
With music by Jared Poff and Alex Stewart.
For show notes, rockin' merch, and other brother goodness, check out our website at anotherbrotherpodcast.com.
Be sure to come back next week.
And tell your friends so they too can become a
Brother over here, brother over there.